Welcome to the Earth Song Garden. When this spot was converted from a vacant, lumpy, brushy area into an organic vegetable garden, we had a Name the Garden contest. Candy McMorris won with the name Earth Song Garden, spelled UURTH. The plots are 4 by 5, and the people can rent it one or more plots. The raised beds were constructed by Keith White, my husband, and eventually we started speaking to each other again. But 11 years later, we're still together and the garden thrives. This summer, a project was to frame the flower bed along the wrought iron fence. Jeff Voller, the master carpenter and volunteer, repurposed the railroad ties from the old playground in the back of RE into framing for the front bed. The first two plots are designed higher for those who can't bend down as easily or to sit in a chair when gardening. The number one primo plot was Marilee Reinertson's for years, and when she vacated it, it was offered as an auction raffle item, and Gary Keel won. Gary is growing some big bell peppers this year. Sharing the raised plot is Dorothy Orland. Dorothy doesn't have a green thumb, Dorothy has green hands. She gardens year-round and raises the most interesting plants like fennel and dill. Down the path are these bountiful plants by Shirley Paulsons. Shirley gardens winter and summer. Patricia Johnson is a frequent gardener, and Patricia always shows up for the end of the season cleanups. I'm going to show you a part of the garden that people don't often see. Jeff Voller constructed our compost bins. The grasshoppers bring leaves here in the fall, and of course there's plant material added after the beds are cleaned out each season. And the kitchen uses this to toss their vegetable peelings. As you know, the church property is significantly lower than a couple of our neighbors. In the parking lot, there's a retaining wall, but there never was one in the garden. And for various reasons, the hill was eroding underneath the neighbor's alleyway. So the APM took on this project, led by the guy who always has a shovel attached to him, John McMillan. And dirt was brought in, moved around, a heavy gauge fence was put up, and an attractive retaining wall was erected. Back to the main part of the garden is new picnic tables. You may recognize two of the tables. They were repurposed from the patio at the main building to the garden. We are fortunate to have art from Patty Taylor. When Patty had to move it from a building that was being sold, she brought it to the garden, and then the RE kids painted it. The plants under the sculpture are from Pat Skeels, who has contributed many hours to the garden. We have two memorials in the garden, this bird bath honoring Marjorie Whitson, and this bench which honors Frida Jackson. Frida was one of the three determined women who started the garden. Another was Pat Naylor. The garden was part of the Green Sanctuary certification projects. Frida was a fireball who pushed us and many other volunteers to complete the garden in record time. When Frida died suddenly a couple years later, her family thought the UUSS garden was a perfect place to honor her. UUSS has rented for about 3 years classrooms 1 day each week to a school that provides enhancements for kids who are homeschooled. The kids planted 4 plots in the garden. Then they asked if they could make a pollinator garden. So they made paths, lined them with rocks that they had painted, and then planted it for butterflies and bees. When they had to suddenly leave in March, we promised to irrigate it and take care of it. This is Glory's plot, my sign. Terry Taylor brought this whirligig to her plot that she and her husband, Jed Shapiro, used when they set up their campsites at Burning Man. Joan Rubinson has a shade cloth for her many, many, many cherry tomatoes and flowers, and she's added a whimsical touch. This plot was entirely covered, but I peeked under the shade and found this colorful frame for plants that were erected by Tracy Jones and Cynthia Davis. I put the cover back. The huge, tall sunflowers you can see from far away are from the 4 plots of Debbie and Matt Spacek. They live nearby, and you can find Debbie visiting the garden almost daily. The RE oak tree shades this plot so that we can't grow vegetables here anymore. It varies every season with whatever anyone wants to plant in it. This summer, the California fuchsia obviously just loves this area. The Fountain family has this fun plot: Mom Crystal, Dad Sean, sons Fletcher, who's 6 years old, and Archer, who's 4 years old, and their daughter Edra, who's age 1. Lucia Stanton and Gigi Weinsner, who are sisters, garden in this plot next to each other. The most talked about garden is Caitlin Walker's. What is that red plant among the vegetables? That is amaranth. Caitlin says that the amaranth was used for healing by the people in Mexico before the Spaniards came and deemed it pagan. The seeds can be popped like tiny popcorn, and Caitlin said that they are delicious. Deanna Bloom is an experienced gardener who can be seen meditating and weeding at various places on the campus. Deanna has offered to plant some naked lady bulbs donated by the McLopes. Adjoining Deanna is Tamara Olson. In winter, Tamara had peas growing up this trellis that was made by none other than our Jeff Voller. This summer, Tamara's trellis is filled with tomatoes. The garden is a great place to bring a book or meditate or walk around enjoying the greenery, especially in this time of isolation. It's cool under the oak trees until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And remember that every day is a good day in the Earth Song Garden.